So, everybody ready to start? Shake your head. Good. All right, I'll try and keep it to an hour, so I know happy hour is coming later. So, anyway, welcome. And I'm Rob Howard, and wanted to talk to you today about teaching advanced students. And want to thank Kate and Alia for having me here. It's a pleasure. And first, just a little bit about me. I've been teaching online for about 20 years. I have my own businesses. And I also teach teachers business language teaching. If you've heard of it, I have a thing called EFL Talks, which is free information for teachers. We have about 350 videos. I'm also the online and video coordinator for the Visual Arts Circle, joint coordinator for IATEFL's Business English Special Interest Group for online and also social media and the web. And as if I'm not busy enough, I started the Independent Authors and Publishers Group, which we do ebooks, self-publishing, and we have teachers from all over the world. So that means I kind of know a little bit about this stuff. So, question for everybody, if you could type in the chat room, just give me a couple of adjectives. What makes you feel at home? Just type in the chat, something that makes you feel at home. Serenity, good. Comfortable, good. Coffee, yes. Peacefulness, nice. Tea, coffee. No vodka, huh? There we go. All right, great. And, well, here's a couple from me. Ooh, homemade soup. You know, an adjective to describe home for me, it should be warm. It should be cozy. And home is yours. And really, there's no other word really like it. Home is home. And I think as teachers teaching online that we need to make our students feel at home. That's one of the most important things that we can do to have successful classes, whether it's beginner or advanced students. And we want to make them feel at home right from the start. Now, what I do is right from the very beginning is I give them basically the home rules. And I tell them what they're going to expect, what's expected from them as a student, and make sure that we meet their expectations and also that they meet ours. Now, I try to make them immediately feel at home with me, make them feel comfortable. And you can see I opened myself up. I was so cute as a little kid. And, you know, share myself with them. Because for the next 3, 6 months to a year, as long as I have them as students, I expect them to open up to me. No better way than modeling and opening up to them. So starting from the very beginning, it's important that you give them a proper greeting. And this is making contact with them, explaining everything that you have to do, and, you know, bring them home, make them feel comfortable right from the first class. And this will be your orientation. And orientation, what we're going to cover is it gives an opportunity for them to see me, to see my personality, what I'm like. It also gives me an opportunity to evaluate them without them feeling like they've been evaluated. And I get to show them the value of taking a class with me. Now, it also helps to start forming a bond right away. lets them get comfy and get that home feeling. And it allows me to show them the ropes. If I'm using the platform, show what's available, what we can use, what we can do, and the requirements, which I skipped. You know, the class for them needs to fulfill their needs. And it, of course, needs to be rewarding for them, but it needs to facilitate learning. We want to build rapport with them right away and get them close. And best way to do that, asking questions. Ask your students a lot of questions, but listen to the answers and note down their needs and some of their responses, because this is information that you're going to use later on in your classes. I keep a file of all my students and every little thing that's of interest, their hobbies, whether they're married, kids' names, where they're from, vacations, everything. I keep track of all this because this is great pertinent information for me later that I can use when formulating classes. So, feedback. I'm going to go through a lot of stuff very quick, but we'll get to a lot of good stuff this way. You know, give them ideas about what they're doing well. Show them the added value by giving feedback at the end of every class or even during class. And remember, they're coming to you as their expert, and they want to hear from you often how they're doing and how their English is, where they can improve. Make sure you give feedback constantly. And be aware of the goals. You know, my goal is to keep them focused on class, keep them interested, and keep them paying attention. You know, we're not face to face, so, you know, some of you can be floating off into La La Land or playing with the cat. We want to keep them busy with the class and paying attention. The results of doing all this: better attendance in the class, much better retention of your students, so they're not going to be quitting so quickly. And the nice thing is growth, because in my case, what happens is a lot of students that come in onto the platform actually are recommended by current students. So, excuse me, I'm automatically getting new students and growing. And a question for you, you know, how do we touch them online? And just give me an idea. Can we touch them online? Yes, no, maybe? In the chat? Yes? Okay, good. I expected a lot of no's. That's good. Nice. All right, most of you are experienced then with working online, I'm guessing. All right, great. And should we? Yes, of course. But do we always? I watch and do a lot of feedback sessions with a lot of online student teachers, and I find they don't often connect. One way is have fun. You know, smile. Most important thing is smiling with your student will ease tension, and it removes their fear, because students are afraid to do this stuff. They're speaking a language they don't know. Yeah, Maria, exactly. Tell jokes. And we're trying to foster a community, whether it be teaching one-to-one or if we're teaching group conversation classes. Remember, what we're trying to build is a partnership between yourself as the teacher and them as a student. You know, we're building a team between the two of us. In the case of conversation classes, we're building a community. Now, very important, and this is something I always need to remember because I'm horrible with names. Right, Nancy? Oh, sorry. Use student names, because remember, they're real people They all feel, and we feel, self-important. It grabs their attention. If I said, "Don't you agree, Kate?" There, she just woke up. And it shows for a more personalized class. So try and mix their name in, not every other sentence, please, but just within the hour that you have them. If you've ever had the opportunity, this is a great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It was written from before I was born, and that's hundreds of years ago. But the most important thing that Dale Carnegie says is there's nothing more important than a person's name. And just using their name will build so much rapport for you. Personalization. Yes, I was young once. You know, do a lot of personalization. Like I said before, you need to open yourself up and talk about yourself. Not all the time, but you want to model yourself. You want to show them you're not afraid to share personal and business and information about you, because remember, you want them to share themselves with you. So you're building a friendship so you can build rapport back and forth. And going back to the notes, like I keep that file on everybody, you can do personalized practice if you know them from the notes, you know personal information, use things from their lives for conversation. For instance, I was working today with conditionals, and working with some of the stuff on the platform that just doesn't mean anything. I was talking to a student today that was thinking of starting another business when he was younger. So using that information as part of the conditional sentences was much more memorable and personalized. And it helps them internalize the usage of the grammar and the practice. I like to use a lot of pictures, and I use my own. I go by their interests. I tell them about locations, tell them about my culture. Colleen, for example, you were saying you're from South Africa. That's very interesting for me to learn more about South Africa. This was the view from my old house when I lived in Brazil, and great view. They love to see it. Talk about your local issues that you have so they know how to share their local issues. And it shows that you're dedicated to their class. Mix up the different activities. Change things often, be dynamic, keep it fast paced, and you keep them guessing this way. There's nothing worse than today we'll correct homework, then we do this, then we do this, then we do this, and it gets to be routine for them. So mix things up, do a warm up, maybe do a larger conversation at the end. Keep continuity and be aware of it, because this will help keep the pace up. I was looking at some of the questions. How do you keep the pace and keep things moving with class so they don't get too slow? You want things to flow naturally, and you want to make natural segues from one section into another. And this will help retain their interest. Always have a plan B. Those of you who have been teaching not just on Skyeng, but on any platform, using the internet with anything, you should always have a plan B. Something always happens. Electricity goes out, internet goes out. Sometimes the platforms don't work. Be ready for anything and everything, and have a plan. Make sure you keep their Skype names handy. Get that set up in the beginning. So if you have to, switch over to Skype. I've even done classes on WhatsApp with students. And if you have to, make sure you reschedule so you get paid. Give the students what they need. For example here, I make up a lot of things. I teach mostly business English. So what I found is people don't know the terminology to use when talking about sales charts. So I have a whole class on that. Prepositions, in Brazil and in Latin-speaking countries, they had a lot of problems with in, at, and on. So I made these up. Make up your own things. Student asked me one day, so I drew this little girl on the computer for in, on, at. Of course, I'm obviously not an artist. I'm a better teacher than an artist. But they appreciated the fact that I took the time to do this specifically so they could learn. So give them what they need. Hot topics. I don't know, some people say don't talk about hot topics. They're my favorite. And, you know, as Eminem says, we all need a little controversy. Remember, this is real life language. And especially where you're dealing with advanced learners, they need to be able to talk about these topics. Use the language, teach them how to use the language, and help them better develop their voice. Now, as a resource, I don't know if you're aware of these. I decided I'd throw them in. These are free books here. If you're aware of Parsnips, these are the things that are taboo to talk about in English classes. It's things like politics, alcoholism, sex, narcotics. But you know what? They need to be able to talk about these subjects. This is a series of 3 books. I wrote chapters in 2 of them, and they're available for free. If you go to smashwords.com, you'll put in a search word Parsnips. They come up. You can download these ebooks for free, and each one of them has 7 different lessons, all done up and ready for you to use in class. So you've got 21 different lessons right there. People are looking for material. There you go. Spaced repetition. Come back, revisit subjects. Talk about the same things again. For example, we talked about your vacation today. Now I've taught you conditionals. In 2 weeks, let's go back and use the conditionals and talk about your vacation using conditionals. So spaced repetition, the whole idea, if you're not familiar, rather than doing 5 things in 1 hour, it's taking maybe 20 minutes spaced out over a 1 hour period 5 different times. This gives them practice. Remember, we made drilling and repetition a bad word years ago with the communicative approach. And unfortunately, students need to repeat and need to do repetition. Reflect. Reflect with the student. Reflect, were they engaged or disengaged? Ask them for their feedback. You know, they feel like they own the class if they can tell you what they liked, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. And with this, you can also improve your classes in the future. So both of you reflect together. Now, talking a little bit about content. I know this, for me, is a bit of a problem. I'm dealing primarily with C1, C2 students when I'm teaching here, and basically all my teaching. So there's not a lot of content available for us to get. And we'll talk about sharing materials later on, as I've been paid to do. Now, and let's talk about content. Remember, most of these students are coming to you for career English. You know, they need it for their workplace, or they need it for their job. And, you know, look at some of the things that they need to do. They're going to deal with conference calls. They're going to participate in meetings, deal with contracts, having to make small talk after the business meeting. Lots of things that they need to do and they need to work on. And these are subjects that we can talk about in our classes. And again, just to make it easy, I have more free books for you. If you go to Smashwords, friends of mine and I, we put together this series. It's just small little ebooks, and it's prepping clients for things like management meetings, financial reports. I did conference calls, and these books are free. They're ebooks. Great material for you to use with your students. So take advantage of it. And I don't make any money because they're free. So enjoy. Most people are coming here for domain-specific skills. For example, if they're a finance person, they know how to talk about finance. What they don't know is how to put it all together. Remember, they work these jobs in their native language. I would assume for most of you, it's Russian that they come to you. They know how to talk about these things. So we're not teaching them their domain. We're teaching them how to talk about it in their language. And these require higher order thinking skills. So let's talk about the skills they already have, not skills that they don't have. You know, we use these things for fluency activities so they get to practice. One of my favorite things to do is I have them interview me for a position in their company, or I interview them for a position in mine. I have them talk about what their daily routine is, what their goals are in their career. And these are fluency activities that can be revisited as they improve and get more vocabulary and more grammar. So we need to be aware of the students' needs and the students' objectives. And if we want to keep the students, we have to work on them, or else they're going to leave. And we know students leave for many reasons, whether it be money, time, boredom, just they get to this wall and they feel they're not improving, they leave. If we've done our job correctly, they leave as learners and speakers, and that's our goal. Don't be afraid. Don't listen, Kate, just in case. Don't be afraid. If you get a student that you aren't a good match with, get rid of them. I've had a few students, we just didn't match. You cannot be everything to everybody. For instance, if the student didn't buy into my way of working, or they were one of these, I noticed, students that never stop talking. I've had two students that insisted on showing me how smart they were and how well they could speak and wouldn't even let me talk. Even when I interrupted them, I said, you know, I'm not the right teacher for you. Let's find the right person. Don't be afraid to reject students. It's not against you. And there's plenty more students because Skyeng is getting us more. Take somebody that you can actually work with, okay? Now you can listen again, Kate. So the idea is we need to find the gap in their language and in their learning. You know, remember, they don't know what's effective. We're the expert that they're turning to show them what and how to learn. Excuse me, it's allergy season. That's why the voice is going. So what's the problem? The biggest problem that I've been seeing lately, and I'm seeing a lot of it, is, yeah, they speak pretty well. They have a good understanding of what grammar is and how to put sentences together. But they're bringing a lot of luggage to these classes. And they have really difficult, bad, fossilized problems and mistakes that we need to get rid of and we need to work on. A lot of them come, they're frustrated. They've been trying to learn, trying to improve. They don't know how. Reality sets in, excuse me, even for myself. And I want to show you some of the encounters that I've come across lately. I've started working more and more with writing samples, and I'm going to show you some from my students just to give you an idea. And you'll probably recognize these same problems. For instance, I have, it's a top executive at Yandex Financial. He's been studying English for about 12 years. He's got 2 masters in economics, and he's a top exec. Guy is brilliant. But look at some of the mistakes he makes in his English, even though he's an advanced speaker. Not so far ago, basic mistake. Do matters for you? These are very basic, low-level mistakes that they should not be making at C1, C2 level. But they're bringing this into class, even though the rest of what they say is brilliant. So we need to work on these things and find these mistakes right away. This particular student, no articles, almost like every single Russian student that you probably had. They don't know how to use the articles. They have problems with the past tense, word order, conditionals, adjective order, and the perfect tenses. So these are the things that I work on with him. Another one, I have a university dean of economics in Siberia. She's got 2 PhDs. She's in charge of their website. She teaches a course on Coursera in English, and she's in charge of their Moodle. Brilliant person. Tuition fees is US. Basic mistakes, even though her level is way up here. We need to work on these. Articles, agreement, formulaic chunks, no idiomatic language, and a lot of times inappropriate genre. So these are the things that we're working on. A marketing manager from an international beverage, 10 years studying. She actually did her master's in English. And things like, think about your fail. Attack and became angry. Not very good. So what I'm finding with most of the students that I'm encountering here, great vocabulary, great listening skills, great reading skills, pretty good speaking skills, but you know what? Their writing skills and their grammar is subpar, not up to the level of a C1, C2 student. Do most of you agree? Nod heads, yes or no. Are you finding the same thing? Okay, good. I'm not alone. Yay. So, you know, people sometimes think, oh, it's easy to learn English. We can learn this quickly. It's a snap. Yeah, right. You know, dealing with IT people, they think, oh, learning a language is like coding. You know, same basics, syntax basics and mastery. If I'm a coder, I can learn the syntax of coding in a week. I can learn the basics of coding to become a coder in a month. And I can gain mastery in a year. Can I say all these things about English? Hands up with fingers. How many years do you think to reach mastery in English? 1, wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. 10. Anybody need more fingers? Yeah, it takes a while. But you know what? Sometimes they don't realize this and they don't take it into account. So speaking, most of them are very strong and they've worked on only speaking skills, which really speaking skills are focused on meaning, context, and communication. This is fluency. And for years, everybody was, we have to work on fluency, forget accuracy. But when it comes to writing and it comes to business, we should be focused on grammar, on the content, and on correctness. I actually learned this from a doctor in Brazil. When we first met, we had a great conversation about playing golf. I had a problem with my shoulder. It hurt when I went like this. He said, stop doing that. So I did. But we talked about golf in English. Great conversation. When we started talking medicine, he switched to Portuguese. I said, why not English? Because I need to be 100% accurate or we could have trouble. Same with business. We're working on $1 million negotiations. I have to make sure accuracy is much more important than fluency at this point. So what we need to do is help them find the balance between the two. Back to their objectives. We need to find out what it is they need to do. Are they going to be speakers? Do they need to write? Which is the most important for them? Now, what should we teach? First thing we need to teach, confidence. This is the most important thing we can teach our students, is how to be a confident speaker. Because they just will shut down. I also have studied neuro-language coaching. In addition to teaching, we talk about fight or flight. You know, if I start off and say something negative to you, you've shut off. So has our learner. If they panic and have no confidence, they're not going to learn. They're not going to produce. So number one, work on their confidence level. Let them know they can speak. I like wash, rinse, and repeat, just like the shampoo companies tell you. No, this isn't brainwashing. It's revisiting. Revisit these things often. I know teaching in courses in the past that I've taught in, excuse me, when you're working in a course book, you talk about one subject matter once, and then 3 weeks later, you never hear about it again. So what happens to the vocabulary? It just goes away. We need to bring the vocabulary back, recycle. Have meaningful conversations with them, not the stuff that you find in the course book, like I go shopping with my aunt to the mall every Thursday. All my aunts are dead and I wouldn't shop with them anyway. Talk about things that actually mean something to you and to them. Modeling. Again, show them how to use something. If I were you, I would blah, blah, blah. Give them examples and model what you're targeting them to give back to you. Now, error correction. You know, there's a lot of schools of thought and arguments about error correction. Do it immediately, do it afterwards, take notes. My personal thing is, especially with advanced students, if you wait till the end and you say, okay, you made a mistake, they're like, what did I say? I don't remember what they said. I know they made a mistake. What I do, I immediately stop them, say, okay. And I do it in a fun way because I lived in Brazil and we had the World Cup cards. While they're talking, to get their attention, if they make a mistake, a red card. I teach them, immediately stop. Think about the last sentence you made. What was the mistake? See if you can figure it out. And then help them and then get them to say it again correctly so they can hear the correction. And then give them a green card and back to work. It's fun. It makes them laugh. I have students say, come on, I deserve a green card, okay? So this will make it interesting and fun for them. Cost you nothing. There's actually even an app for it too. There's always an app. Again, feedback. Give them constant feedback. You did a really good job of working with Past Perfect today. Praise. We all know praise. Everybody loves to be praised. I treat my students like I train dogs. Dogs love it. Good work. And you know what? It does work. You can't pat them on the head, but you can emotionally. Make your students read. They really don't read enough. Are you guys finding the same? They don't do a lot of reading in English, do they? Nods of head, yes, no. I'm really surprised at that. I would have thought they did more. You know, they read emails. A lot of them aren't reading journals in English. There's so much available from journals in their job, like in oil. Oh, great. You're lucky, Sue. The journals from English journals for oil and gas, for instance, there's a ton of material out there. Have them read the news and ask them about, what did you read about in the news today? Talk about these things. Books of interest, what are their hobbies? If they like romance novels, if they like mysteries, if they like biographies, but force them to read in English. Ebooks are cheap. They can get ebooks online. A lot are free, a lot are only $1. You know, and don't forget, they've got a treasure chest sitting in their pocket. And I don't think we take advantage of it enough. Any idea what it is? It's not their wallet or their credit card. It's their cell phone. Yeah, the Skyin Yap. Very good. Did she get a raise? You know, make them listen. I know my students in Moscow, most of them use public transportation. Most of them are sitting in traffic. If you're in places like Sao Paulo, Brazil, it can take 2 hours to get to work by car. What are you doing in those 2 hours? Make them listen in English. Make them listen to podcasts. Make them listen to things like NPR and BBC. It'll improve their skills. Plus, they'll hear more vocabulary. They'll hear more accents. And work with target listening. And what I mean by target listening is something I do with YouTube. For example, Colleen, you're a teacher and you're interested in learning more about vocabulary and how to use things in education. Go to YouTube and put South African teacher talking about present perfect. Work with the accents for accent training. Hear how they put things together. So target their listening. And I've become terrible. I'm now making every one of them write an essay every week. You know, just a short essay, 250 words. It doesn't take that much time. It could be on a news subject. It could be on a TV show that they watch. You know, I've heard so many versions of Stranger Things and Game of Thrones lately, but their writing, and working with their writing, you really see the grammatical mistakes and the problems where they need help and where you need to target. So try this, it works well, and it gives you material to go over in class. What I do is I have them write it, We put it into the notes section, or they can email it to me, and we go through it. And you'd be surprised, because once you correct something here, you see them sneaking down and correcting it lower down, which is good. You want them to reflect on the things that you've taught them, on what they've taken in, and you want them to use what you've taught them. So you have to tell them they are lifelong learners. Look, I'm 25 years old. All right, stop laughing. I'm old, and I was born in the United States, raised in the United States, got a damn good education, and you know what? I learned 3 new English words this week already. We are always learning English. They're going to be lifelong learners. They'll be forever learning. We're not going to be forever their teacher. So what do? Teach them how to learn. A valuable thing you can do is make them into autonomous learners. Teach them the ways to learn. Teach them, if you learn a new verb, immediately look it up in the dictionary. Look at the base form, the past tense, the past participle, the gerund. Learn everything at once. Learn structure, learn how to use it. Learn synonyms, learn antonyms. Teach them this, and you'd be surprised they'll do it. Teach them how to study. I don't know about you, but what I realized in Brazil, they have absolutely no clue how to properly study. I was lucky. I grew up in a school system that taught me how to study, how to learn, how to memorize. A lot of people never learned. Teach them. Work with presentations. Most of these people have to do presentations. Have them do them on occasion. Nothing better than putting them right to the fire and saying, okay, tell me about your job. Tell me a presentation on this. Show me how you're going to impress a client or your boss or your coworkers. I like to, excuse me, in the beginning, I tell them to set up a learner's notebook. Take a notebook. When they learn new words, write it down. When they learn new phrases that sound good and say, ooh, I could use that someday, write it down. Any new skills they learn, write it down in this learner's notebook and tell them, flip back to the old pages to see some of the things you've learned so you can use it again. I'm not afraid of using translation, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Word banks. Are you familiar with word banks? Word banks are apps. What they do is they'll give you a series of words and they pop up on an app and you have to say what the word is. There's also word banks that you can put your own words into. I have students working with these apps. Some are free, some are very inexpensive, like $5 forever. And it allows you to put words in and they come up repeatedly. So this is the whole idea of spaced repetition. A thesaurus. I'm amazed at how many people never use it. I use the thesaurus every day. I'm constantly with my writing looking for different ways of saying different things. Teach them how to work with a thesaurus. You have thesaurus.com online. It's free. Rather than saying teach, 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 I say teach, instruct, show, demonstrate. Teach them how to learn new vocabulary by using a thesaurus. Another one, Coursera and Udemy. There's a ton of free classes. I was amazed. I thought of this years ago. Okay, you're an accountant. You know how to do accounting. You know the terminology, but you don't know how to put it together. Take your Coursera course, Accounting 101. You know the subject matter, you know the vocabulary, but now you're hearing it in English for free. It's a great source for improving their English. Now, translation, I call this V2V or voice to voice. I have students reflect on the things that they say every day at work. Most people repeat the same thing over and over again. We as teachers could make recordings and press play teaching classes. We tend to say the same thing. Have them go through in their native language and work out a speech. Then sit down and make sure every one of those words they can say in English. You'd be amazed at how many words in Russian they don't know in English that they use every day. Make them look it up in the dictionary, put it in their learner's notebook, and now use it. This will help fill the vocabulary gaps that they have. Teach them how to practice, all different ways that they can practice on their own and with other people. Another trick, I use WhatsApp for pronunciation. I have a student who has a real hard time with pronunciation. I have her WhatsApp number, and when she has a problem with the word commonalities, okay, I type the word commonalities, I hit the microphone, commonalities. Now, she's got a permanent record that she can go back anytime, hit play, and hear how to pronounce the word. And she can continually practice this until she gets it right. Speech to text programs. Have them write something or read something into a free speech to text app and see what words come up wrong. You all have probably done it. You talk to Google, and I said something the other day, repeat, and it came up feet. You know, have them use speech to text to improve their pronunciation. Remember, these are all free resources, and we need to teach them to use them. Now, this one's kind of nasty. I call it toilet training. When I was a kid, I used to keep a dictionary in the bathroom. And I always thought, what a waste of time to be using the bathroom every morning and doing nothing. You know, we didn't have video games back then or cell phones. So I used to learn words. When I got through the dictionary, I started on the thesaurus. And that's how I got such a great vocabulary as a kid. Of course, my mother's banging on the door saying, "What are you doing in there?" I'm like, "I'm learning words." She's like, "Yeah, sure." But think about it. Everybody goes to the bathroom. Do you realize if you go to the bathroom 5 minutes a day and study vocabulary, that's 30 hours a year of extra study? If normally you're in the bathroom for 10 minutes, 60 hours a year. Those of you who are there for 15 minutes, 90 hours of extra practice a year. If you're in the bathroom more than 15 minutes, I recommend you see a doctor. Something's wrong. So mastery. Everybody wants to reach mastery, but it takes time. I am and was a professional musician. How did I get there? From the time I was 5 years old, I practiced trumpet 3 hours a day, every day. That's 1,100 hours a year. That's 46 days a year I spent practicing. But I became a master of the instrument. Do you think they put this kind of time in with their English? Yet they expect to become experts. It's our job to point it out. And we do this through multitasking, giving feedback, grading them, customizing the course, keeping them interested, keeping a conversation, and adapting. We need to motivate them. Keep them motivated to learn, always. Make it exciting, but make them realize they need to do the work. It's not going to happen just talking to you 1 or maybe 2 hours a week online. They need to do work outside of class. And another thing, do you rely too much on tech and not teaching anymore? It's like a subject for another class. But we need to teach them English again. And my best advice is teachers, you guys are probably all experienced teachers, be yourself and be the teacher that everything you've learned over the years made you, not what the methodologists tell you to do. Shh, Kate, you didn't hear that. So everybody loves acronyms. Let's teach again. It's train them, educate them, make them autonomous learners, challenge them, and help them to succeed. And if you're looking for more sources, as I mentioned before, EFL Talks, this is free. I have over 350 10-minute videos on different subjects, different aspects of EFL teaching. These were talks that are done by some very famous experts that you'll recognize from around the world, talking about all different subjects, scaffolding, dealing with different things. Take advantage, it's free. And with that said, if you want to talk to me, there's my email, my website if you're looking for more information, or if you want to contact me, everything is there. And any questions?
No, that was great, Rob. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks. One of the questions I remember seeing, I was looking at some of the questions that you put beforehand. Let me see. Did I cover being engaged? How to engage them? Do you feel confident with better ways to keep them engaged? Talking about them, talking about things that are interesting to them? Keeping things interesting is talking about them. The one thing I liked the question was the students who won't stop talking. Remember, you're the teacher, interrupt them. Say, okay, that's good, that's enough on that. Let's move on to the next. We don't have much time. Don't be afraid. You're the one in control. Great. So, I hope I helped. I hope I gave you a little insight and some ideas. Smile and clap if you'd like. Great. And one thing I'd like to take a minute and talk about is a lot of people have been talking about materials for advanced teachers and advanced learners. For me, I don't find a lot that's useful for most business people available. I don't like using pirated material, so I make a lot of my own materials. I'm sure a lot of you are making your own materials. I'm sure between all of us, we could probably come up with an entire course. How can we share these materials together? Can we come up with some kind of group and everybody feel free to share the materials they make? Because we're all in this together. You know, I might have something good for IT that, let's say, maybe Justice needs. And Justice might have something good on legal English because he's from the Hall of Justice, right? And that would be helpful to me. What do you think? People willing to share? You have my email address. Let's come up with something. Think of the best way we can do this. I have a lot of sites. I have different ways that we can share material. We can start off with our own little wiki and have Skyeng, share it so it's available to everybody. But, I used to be this type that I don't share materials because I said, I worked on it, it's mine, I want to be the expert. You know what? There's 20 million students out there? I wish I had the time to teach them all. I don't. So let's help each other. Yes? Good. All right. Kate, you heard them. They all promised.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rob, for teaching us this stuff. And thank you, everyone, for participating. Yeah. If you have any materials you would like to share, please contact your group manager and we will find a way to create like a bank for those lessons, materials, whatever, for all of you to access whenever you need them, because we really want to make your life easier, and preparing for each and every lesson can be stressful and time consuming. So that's why we decided that it was a good idea. So if you have any questions about these materials, stuff like this, you can always contact your group manager, as I've already said. And I guess that is it for today. And I will, finish our conference. So thank you all for coming and have a great day.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Rob. Bye.
See you online.
Thank you. Hey.